I never thought signing up for a cooking course would change the course of my marriage. Back in March, Emily suggested we do something fun together, reignite the spark, she said. It had been 7 years since we said our vows, and life had gradually traded passion for routine. Between our demanding jobs and Emily's relentless drive to keep up her social media food blog, we'd somehow drifted into becoming very polite roommates. So when she found a weekend culinary program at a cozy, rustic kitchen studio run by a former Michelin-starred chef, I said yes. Anything to stir the pot, metaphorically speaking. His name was Luca. Italian. Tall, unbothered by the chaos of clumsy hands and boiling pots, he moved like he belonged on the set of a gourmet romance film. He had a laugh that could slice through the loudest kitchen and an effortless charm that grated on me from day one. But Emily, she was smitten with the idea of learning directly from a culinary artist. Her words, not mine. The first few classes were harmless enough. We made pasta from scratch, got flour in places it didn't belong, and giggled like we were dating again. For a brief moment, it felt like we were reconnecting. I'd catch her looking at me like she used to, eyes soft, mouth curled into that half-smile I fell for. But then the shift happened. It started with subtle things, her staying after class to ask extra questions, laughing too hard at his stories, brushing his hand when passing him ingredients. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, that I was being paranoid. But my gut knew better. The way she started dressing differently for class, wearing makeup on a Saturday morning, or posting photos with captions like craving more than just carbs spaghetti, something felt off. One Saturday, I had to skip class. A last-minute system crash at work had me glued to my laptop all day. Emily went alone. She texted she'd be a little late coming back because the class had run over. She came home 2 hours late. Her cheeks flushed, eyes bright like she'd just been kissed by adventure. She smelled of rosemary and wine, and something else I couldn't quite place, something more primal. I didn't ask questions. Not then. I told myself, maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was jealous of a man who was simply doing what I hadn't, making her feel special. The next weekend, I made a point to go with her. I watched them like a hawk. They weren't overt, but the chemistry was suffocating. When Luca adjusted her knife grip, he held her hand a little too long. When she laughed at his joke about seducing someone with risotto, I saw her blush. That night, I confronted her. She denied everything, of course. Told me I was imagining it. That I was insecure. That Luca was just a teacher, just a chef. But the next time she said she had errands after class, I followed her. She wasn't shopping for groceries. I saw her through the window of a cafe 2 blocks from the studio, sitting across from him. Her hand on his wrist, leaning in as he whispered something that made her laugh like she hadn't laughed with me in months. She didn't come home until after midnight. When I finally confronted her again, this time with the truth, she didn't even try to lie. She said she didn't plan for it to happen. That it started with harmless flirting and grew into something she couldn't stop. She said she felt alive with him, like someone had finally seen her again. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat on the porch until dawn, holding my wedding ring like it was a foreign object. The house felt unfamiliar. Her perfume in the air didn't comfort me, it haunted me. But I didn't leave. Not yet. Because something inside me wanted to understand, how did we get here? What was missing? And more terrifying, was I willing to let go after all these years, or was there still something worth saving? The following week was a blur. Emily moved through the house like a ghost, tiptoeing around me as though the silence might fix things. I stopped going to the cooking class, of course. I didn't even bother with excuses. She still went. That hurt more than I expected. Every night, I sat at the kitchen table staring at untouched leftovers. Her wineglass would clink against the countertop around 10:30, and she'd quietly retreat upstairs like we were strangers in an Airbnb. I didn't ask if she'd seen him again. I didn't need to. One evening, I opened the drawer where we kept old postcards and Polaroids. There was one from a trip to Italy we took 3 years ago, Florence. Emily had insisted on finding this tiny trattoria hidden behind a flower shop. She said the pasta there changed her life. We'd kissed that night under string lights and drunk too much house red. I remember thinking she looked more beautiful than ever, twirling spaghetti with that crooked smile. I couldn't reconcile that memory with the woman sleeping down the hall. I finally broke the silence one morning, pushing a mug of coffee toward her as she walked into the kitchen. "Are you still seeing him?" Her hands froze on the cupboard handle. She didn't turn. "Not since I told you. It's over." I didn't believe her. But I didn't press. I needed more than words, I needed understanding. So I asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Why him?" She looked at me then, and there were tears in her eyes, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet, resigned kind that come from losing something slowly. "I don't know. He made me feel wanted. Like I mattered. Not just for being your wife or the girl who posts food pictures. He looked at me like I was a person, not a routine." I bit down the lump in my throat. "You mattered to me." "I know," she whispered. "But somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling like we were in it together. I'd tell you things, and you'd nod, distracted. You stopped touching me. We stopped creating things. We used to laugh. We used to cook. It wasn't an excuse. But it was honest. I wanted to hate her. But I couldn't. Because somewhere inside me, I knew she was right. Life had worn us down. We stopped choosing each other. She chose someone else, yes, but I had chosen absence, distraction, work, comfort. I had chosen to believe love could run on autopilot. A week later, we went to couples therapy. We weren't sure if we were trying to fix things or just find a way to end without burning it all down. The sessions were hard. Messy. There were things said I wasn't ready to hear, and things she wasn't ready to admit. Eventually, I found myself standing outside the kitchen studio again. Not with her. Just me. I signed up for a solo course, different instructor. I wanted to remember what it felt like to create something again, not for a blog, not for a performance, but because I loved doing it. Because that's who I was before the world got too heavy. We separated 3 months later. There was no dramatic final fight. No slamming doors. Just a quiet Sunday morning where she made eggs and I poured coffee, and we both knew. We had tried. Really tried. But sometimes love isn't enough to clean the slate. She moved out 2 weeks after that. Left a note in the drawer with our Florence postcard: "I'll always love the way you made me laugh over boiling pasta. I'm sorry it wasn't enough. Sometimes I still cook. Not to remember her, but to remember me. Who I was before betrayal, before grief, before the dull ache of absence set in like a second skin." Love doesn't always die in explosions. Sometimes, it simmers down until there's nothing left but ash and the faint memory of heat. But from ashes, new recipes are born.